So, how much you bench, bro? This is one of the most common questions bodybuilders and any athlete that weight trains gets asked. The flat barbell bench press is by far one of the most popular exercises, and for good reason, is a staple in most resistance training programs. In competitive powerlifting, it is the lift to assess upper body strength, and for many, this lift defines how jacked someone truly is. However, the question I want to present in this video is whether or not the flat barbell bench press is absolutely necessary or just another option when it specifically comes to maximizing chest growth. In the last two videos, I covered different exercises to maximize the development of your upper and lower pec regions, but didn't discuss the flat bench much at all. Interestingly, if I had to prescribe only one exercise for someone to perform to enhance their chest development, it would be some form of flat press. But a lot of us perform a lot more than just one exercise per muscle group, and just like any one exercise, it truly isn't necessary. As you'll come to learn by the end of this video, it's just another option. For some people, it's an excellent option, and for others, they may be better off spending their time and efforts performing different exercises. Let's take a look at some of the important anatomical components that really impact the barbell bench press. As we covered in the previous videos of this series, the pectoralis major muscle of your chest is made up of the clavicular head or upper chest, which is primarily involved with shoulder flexion, raising your arm straight up, the costal fibers or lower chest, which essentially brings your arm down and across your body, and the sternal head, which makes up the largest component of your chest surface area for many. This sternal head pulls the upper arm across the body towards its midline. When performing the barbell chest press, you're essentially moving at the shoulder joint through horizontal adduction, and the triceps are also contributing to this lift as your elbows are extending throughout the concentric phase. Now, although most people standardize bench press form by ensuring the barbell touches their chest, not all flat barbell bench presses are created equal from person to person. Last week, I briefly discussed how we all have different skeletal frames, and although our muscle actions are the same from person to person, our frames massively impact our movement mechanics, how the stress from the weight we are lifting is distributed across the muscles, and our ability to produce force. One variable that is often overlooked, despite its significant impact with chest training, is each individual's ribcage thickness and sternal angle. This is even more important when someone's exercise execution and the range of motion they're working through is predetermined and dependent on making sure they touch their chest when performing this lift. Although the average sternal angle for men is approximately 163 degrees, research has shown a normal yet wide variability from person to person, ranging from 149 degrees to 177 degrees. Those that have thicker rib cages and that natural barrel-shaped chest structure will likely move their shoulder joint through a smaller range of motion in order for the bar to touch their chest when performing the barbell bench press exercise. Those that have a smaller rib cage and a more shallow sternal angle are going to stretch their chest to a greater degree at the bottom of the movement and are at a mechanical disadvantage when the bar touches their chest, since they're moving through a greater range of motion at the shoulder. To no surprise, previous research has shown a strong correlation between bench press strength and muscle size of the chest. However, this research did not examine individual structural differences and their potential impact on strength performance and cross-sectional area of the pecs. With that said, data does support that flat bench pressing alone will surely increase chest thickness, and that the pec muscles growth was tightly related to increases in bench performance. Something that is well understood in the scientific literature is that muscles are the weakest in their stretched and shortened positions, and they're strongest at their natural resting muscle lengths. This is called the muscle length tension relationship, and is one reason why those who are forced to take their pec to a more lengthened position will be weaker. Let's take a look at this short excerpt from Tom Purvis of the Resistance Training Specialist to get a clear visual on these differences.
So let's take a look at some real people, or at least some pictures and video of real people. relative to this structural thing and how that might play into their ability to do a chest exercise. And this guy is a relatively thin structure, front to back. His rib cage is not very thick, so his sternal angle is not very steep, if you will. It's relatively shallow and plays into a couple things. The angle at which his pec is pulling is diminished compared to if he was thicker. It also, by being thinner, allows him to go through a greater excursion with the bar. So if he's mistakenly attempting to play by the rules of powerlifting, just because he happens to have a bar in his hand and he happens to be doing a bench press, he goes to a very different shoulder position than someone who's built for bench pressing. This guy right here, same era, but he's got a super thick rib cage, a barrel rib cage, if you will, and a very different sternal angle, which, as I mentioned before, stops or influences where he stops. And we think the range of motion is determined by where the bar moves and what the bar touches. The range of motion is right here, boys and girls. This is the part that matters. Only because of his structure and using a bar, he won't get as low as the other guy. His shoulder's much safer here. He's going to appear stronger here for a couple reasons. He's not going through as great an excursion at the shoulder, losing some of his mechanical ability. And even if he did go down as low in the shoulder as the other guy, his darn sternum would keep an awesome angle of the pec, maintaining some torque generating capability. And if you compare these guys side to side and make the reference point that's consistent between the two, where their shoulders are on the bench, you can see this guy's mechanical ability is very different. His pec, if you were to outline it in your head beneath that shirt, has, through its array of fan-shaped fibers, an almost vertical pull, an almost 9-degree pull in the arm here at the bottom. This guy's got about a 45-degree or less force angle, a relatively small moment arm. Their strength generating capabilities will be very different based upon structure, if nothing else. And this again is why I use the body to judge range of motion and what someone brings to the table, what they have available, and what their goal is. I don't use the bar. That's random, and that's just for a sport.
So although the barbell bench press may be a great exercise for you, it may not be a great exercise for your training partner, or vice versa. This was well stated in a great research paper published in 2019 by Dr. Brad Schoenfeld and colleagues. They stated, individual anthropometrics and muscle moment arms can influence the relative demands of a muscle during an exercise. This could differentially affect hypertrophic outcomes between individuals. In other words, an exercise could be more or less hypertrophic for a given muscle in one individual compared to another. With that said, you can build your chest with or without the barbell bench press, and it's going to be better for some people compared to others. It is really important to ask yourself and determine what is your primary goal. If your goal is to build a bigger chest, you do not need to perform the flat barbell bench press, but it may be a great tool in your toolbox. If you want to get as strong as possible at the bench press exercise, then you absolutely need to frequently practice benching to master the skill of the movement. Although I have used barbell bench press for my personal chest development early on in my bodybuilding endeavors, I've always preferred dumbbell pressing and struggled to get strong with my flat barbell pressing. There are a few advantages when it comes to using dumbbells versus the barbell. First, it gives you greater freedom to alter your mechanics as your wrist, elbow, and shoulder aren't in a fixed position. I also like the fact that if you're training at a high intensity of effort, you can push to true concentric failure without a spot and just drop the dumbbells by your side, rather than getting pinned underneath a loaded bar and turning into a gym fail meme on social media. At the moment, I'm currently performing incline presses and decline presses, but I'm not performing any flat bench variation. Some people may think I'm leaving potential gains on the table or I'm missing out by not flat pressing, but I beg to differ. That's because I'm still training horizontal shoulder adduction and I'm targeting the sternal head of my chest by performing tech deck flies. Essentially, I'm training the pecs horizontal line of pull with a straight arm using a single joint isolation exercise rather than a multi-joint compound movement. Although a lot of people assume compound exercises are superior to isolation exercises to induce muscle growth, the scientific data we have to date seems to bust that myth and challenge that belief. There are many ways to organize your training program to stimulate a positive growth response, and I think it's crucial that we don't get married to any specific exercise like the barbell bench press. Even though it can be an excellent exercise for many, some will get a better muscle growth return on their training efforts and potentially limit their injury risk without it. I hope you enjoyed the content within this video and learned something new today. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. I'm really curious to hear about how you currently approach your chest training and if you feel like the barbell bench press is a great option for you. Let me know in the comments below. I appreciate you tuning in, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Thanks, guys.